Welcome to the Host Planet Playbook, your go-to guide for mastering short-term rentals. In this special series, we're sitting down with 30 of the world's top property managers to uncover what really drives success in the vacation rental industry. You'll hear their stories, learn the key lessons they've picked up along the way, and discover the game-changing tech they use to deliver 5-star guest experiences. If you're serious about growing your STR business, you're in the right place. We've also developed an ebook featuring the stories of every manager in this series, and you can download it for free. Head to hostplanet.club to find out more. In today's episode, we're chatting to Sabrina Calnan from bnbExcellent. Stand by for a deep dive into co-hosting, revenue management, and how to ensure your listing appears at the top of searches on Airbnb. This special series is brought to you by Host Planet and Hospitable, the smart AI-powered property management software trusted by hosts worldwide. With Hospitable, you can automate guest messaging, sync calendars across platforms, and manage your rentals with ease, all from one powerful, easy-to-use platform. If you're keen to run your short-term rental on autopilot, try Hospitable today. Visit hospitable.com/hostplanet to see how the platform can save you time, reduce stress, and maximize your earnings. Sabrina, thank you for being part of the Host Planet Playbook. Let's start with you. What's the name of your company? Where are you located? And how many rentals do you manage?
Yeah, so the name of the company is bnbExcellent. I am located in Denver, Colorado, and I co-host. I actually consider it co-hosting about 20 properties because we don't do your traditional full service property management. Actually, what we focus on is we focus on search ranking optimization as well as revenue strategy.
Superb. Okay, so tell us, how did you get involved in the world of short-term rentals?
Yeah, it was kind of a crooked path to short-term rental for me. I actually started in the long-term rental business about 10 years ago. And 10 years ago, short-term rentals were like the new hot thing. So I was getting a bunch of questions from clients, from referral partners about short-term rental, whether or not they should do it. And I thought I need to get educated on this and get really good at this. And I actually started out by hosting my own property. I have a little guest house in the back of my home, and we converted that property, remodeled it, converted it to a short-term rental, and it's kind of been history ever since.
Superb. So tell us then about your co-hosting journey as well. How did that start, and how did you scale to the point where you're now helping about 20 properties
Yeah.
run their operations?
Yeah. So that actually was also a little bit crooked of a journey. So from the long-term property management company, as I mentioned, that I started getting into short-term rental right in the beginning of that company as well. So I started that company in 2014. Um, Started getting questions about short-term rentals and Airbnbs right away. And I actually started out educating in the space of short-term rentals. At the time, I was seeing a lot of people jump into the market, not really knowing what they were doing and not really understanding the rules and regulations, which were sort of rapidly changing in my area and, of course, everywhere. And I thought I have to stop people from making bad investments. I need to educate them so they know how to make good ones. And I actually took the approach of working with the real estate agents and teaching CE courses to help the real estate agents learn how to guide their clients into purchasing and investing in short-term rentals. And then from there, it sort of grew naturally because I was a property manager. I started managing short-term rentals, and in that at that time, I was managing them in the full capacity that you would consider, just a traditional vacation rental manager. And I did that. I got really efficient at that. I actually got to the point where I was doing about 40 properties. It was me, myself, and I, and a quality control person and a cleaning team. And I was still only working part time doing that. I would say barely part time, maybe 20 hours a week or something like that. And so I feel like I really learned the operations and efficiency side of things. And as I did this, I got to understand that my background, I actually have a background in finance, investment banking first, particularly in mortgage-backed securities, so real estate-backed securities, and bank real estate-backed loans. Essentially, is where my background comes in. So I have like a real head for numbers, and I kind of understood right away that revenue management is one of the keys to success, along with sort of working all of those platform algorithms. So a few years ago, I made the shift into focusing specifically on that because I really felt like that was my special gift to give to the hosts that I work with.
So when a new host does get in touch and they're looking for advice at the start, what are the key bits of education that you share that you think is integral that they get right from day one?
Yeah, I mean, from day one, getting set up for success is absolutely important. So you do have to make that listing that is absolutely attractive to the guest. And this is all sort of like the advice that you hear everywhere: great design, great photos, great copy in your listing. But then what happens is after you're set up for success, there are two pieces that are very important to sort of pulling the levers on how you are doing as a host, as far as the number of bookings you're getting, the amount of revenue that you're earning. Number one is actually being a great host, but not just being a great host, being a host that works the system so that you are ranking high in the search results. And then number two, which I think is the most ignored piece of things, is the revenue strategy that goes in behind it, because that is like the pieces that you can pull with revenue strategy I think are your most important levers, and they're the things that you have the most control over. So doing that revenue strategy as a whole, not just talking about pricing, increasing and decreasing prices, that's dynamic pricing. Revenue strategy encompasses, understanding the data, dynamic stays, a multitude of other factors.
So in terms of ranking on the first page and getting high up those search results, what's a tip or a hack that you can share with people?
Yeah, I mean, a tip that I can share with people is to, on the hosting side, is to respond very, very quickly to any guest inquiries. Hospitable is brilliant for this because they can automate your first response back to the guest so that it happens within seconds. And Airbnb, Verbo, Expedia, all of the platforms, they are watching and counting this, and they want hosts that are reliable. So I think that's, one tip. It's not, I respond when I can, respond within an hour, but if you can find a way to use that technology to get you to respond right away, that's just one key thing that you can do.
And something I think a lot of hosts and property managers perhaps struggle with early on. I know that I did. How do you get the revenue management right and make sure that you're charging the correct rates?
Yeah, I think the first piece to that is really getting to know your market. I think there's a lot of people out there who step into the business and they make a lot of assumptions about their market. They're like, the tourists are coming for this, I can rent to these type of people, my property is good for this. But making those assumptions is like an educated guess. Whereas like if you can get to know the market data, and there are indicators, I would say there are key metrics that help you determine your pricing settings. And those key metrics really are, what are the average occupancy levels in your area? What is the average length of stay? And what is your booking lead time? Those are your main three indicators that help you determine your settings. And then, as you get more advanced, you're learning what's your 7-day pickup, your 30-day pickup. But even let me step back farther, that's getting into the nitty gritty of the numbers, but getting to know your market in that, like, who are my tourists coming to the area? Why are they coming? How are they traveling here? What is important to them? Evaluating those guest reviews in your area. What amenities do they actually value? That is actually the first step to really ranking high in those search results.
In terms of delivering a great guest experience, then, what are your top tips?
Yeah, my top tips: put yourself in the guest's shoes always. Do everything you can to make that guest feel comfortable. And what I mean by that is it's not the big things, it's actually the little things. Make sure they have enough coffee, make sure there's enough seating in your home. Make sure they step into the home and they're never confused. So you have a great guide or tips, a note by the TV that tells them how to operate it. If you can prevent them feeling confused before they have to ask, they feel at home. And then the last thing I would say is always err on the side of generosity as a host.
Great tip. We've asked some property managers how they keep owners happy. In your case, how do you keep the people that you're co-hosting with happy?
Yeah, in my case, it's constant communication with the people that I'm co-hosting. And we aren't just, revenue managers or revenue strategists. We are their co-hosts, so we are helping them navigate hosting. So for instance, if there's a difficult guest situation, I always know about it and I'm there to help them through that. So I think it's one of the things that helps us stand out. We're not just a tech company or a behind the scenes company, but we're really hands on and work with our clients. So we build a lot of trust that way.
And tell us about the situation in the area where you operate. What are the main challenges and opportunities in relation to short-term rentals?
Yeah, I think the main challenges in the area that I operate are that prices are very high here. So it is very hard to be a profitable vacation rental host. Even in the areas where the regulations are are more friendly towards vacation rental properties. It's just that prices are so high here that a lot of times people are vacation rental hosts, but they're also hosts because they love their property. They like to stay there themselves, because you're not going to cash flow off of most of the properties in my whole state. There are opportunities for sure. So I think that's one of the challenges. And then I'm sorry, what was the other piece of that question?
And what are the main opportunities?
Yeah, I think the main opportunities are really finding those pockets where you can be profitable as a host and where you can really stand out above and beyond other hosts. And what I mean by that is, I think a lot of people can fall into this amenities race, add add a simulated golf game, or add a game room in your house. And I think, don't forget about those creature comforts in a way to stand out. Stand out with great design, not gimmicks. Stand out with great hospitality, not extra amenities that nobody ever asked for.
We've touched on this a little bit, but what are the unique parts of your business which really help you to stand out?
Yeah, I think the unique piece of my business is that I'm an educator. And so with every host that I work with, I'm constantly educating them. Not only do we do the search ranking and revenue strategy for clients, but I also teach it. So I host groups of people. I teach them from the very beginning and ongoing support how to do that for themselves. The clients that are looking to own maybe 3, 4, 5 properties, maybe even they just own one, and it's really important to them to maximize that revenue. I teach them how to do that on their own without a property manager, so that they can earn as much as possible and then go on to buy the next property.
What are the biggest problems at the start of people's journey? What are the frequent questions you get asked right at the start?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of overwhelm for a lot of people right at the beginning, which is completely understandable because there's a lot of moving pieces. The thing that I see, which is completely natural, that people do focus on in the beginning, is they're focusing on just the front end of the house. So what the home looks like, how many towels they have, how to do the cleaning, and then they sort of forget about the revenue strategy piece of it. That's an afterthought that comes in later. So I think that's the biggest mistake that I see. And I wouldn't necessarily call it a mistake because you do sort of go in that order, but you just can't forget about that last piece of things.
And what are the other common errors that you see people making at the start of their journeys?
Yeah, I think at the beginning, besides just, using pricing as an afterthought, is holding off on those professional photos. Airbnb, Verbo, in the first 30 or 60 days of your listing, they're sort of creating an anchor and they're determining where you belong in the market. And if you're not putting your best foot forward, they sort of judge you to be mediocre from the beginning. And you never want to be mediocre from the beginning. You want to be at the top from the beginning. And then all you have to do is work to stay there versus working your way up later on.
It is the number one thing to get right at the start. Excellent
Mm-hmm.
photo, because if you don't, they are judging you. The OTAs are judging you
Yes,
like
yes, they
crazy.
are. They know if they're professional and they know if they look good. And
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
they
it's
know if the
the
angles are off.
exactly it's the easiest thing to get right as well, and doesn't cost too much money. So what's been your biggest lesson learned since you started your STR journey?
I think my biggest lesson learned is that hosts are all hosting for a different reason. And meet hosts where they are. Make sure you understand their goals before you start working with them so that you can help them meet those goals.
And what do you love most about hosting?
Gosh, that's such a hard question. I just love that hosting is so dynamic. There's so many aspects to it. I get to dabble in the numbers side of things, but I also get to interact with people. I get to, really take care of them and be hospitable as a host. And then there's the creative end of things too, with the design and, photography and the marketing and the copy and all of that. So I love all of it.
Superb. Okay then, Sabrina, we've got a few more quickfire questions now. Which PMS do you use?
So I use Hospitable. I've been using them since 2015.
And how has it helped you run your business?
I mean, I think honestly, Hospitable has been amazing to help run the business. I think I would have never been able to host 40 properties on my own without the automations that Hospitable provides. But, more importantly, as I've been hosting for a while now, 10 years, Hospitable allows hosts to put into place the practices that provide great hospitality, but also help them rank higher in the search results. So it's just integral to being a great host.
Which dynamic pricing tool do you use?
I use Price Labs, and I've been using them for many years as well.
Superb. Great shout out for Price Labs. Which piece of tech couldn't you live without?
I would say it's my phone. That thing goes with me everywhere. I can do business from anywhere because I have that phone.
Ideally, pets at your rental, yes or no?
I think it depends on the situation.
Same question for hot tubs, yes or no?
I would say hot tubs are almost always a yes.
Ideally, a self check-in or a personal welcome?
I think self check-in.
Telephone call or AI response?
I would say depends on the situation. There should always be a human looking at the AI response and then a phone call if necessary.
And what's your most memorable hosting moment?
Well, I can tell you that I've only had one lockout in the last 10 years. I missed it by a half an hour. I missed the guest message where a keypad failed and I wasn't able to get them the lockbox information with the backup. But I can tell you now that Hospitable would be able to solve that problem because they have automated backup messages that go out.
There you go. Okay, then. So, shout out time now. Is there an individual in the STR industry who's perhaps helped you on your journey that you'd like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, I actually have a colleague that I used to work with, Scott Castro, and he really helped me learn the online logistics to co hosting. So, I have to give Scott a shout out, and he's located in Florida.
Great shout out for Scott. Final question then, ultimate goal for your STR business.
My ultimate goal is to help as many homeowners as possible maximize their revenue so that they can use that extra money to fulfill whatever dreams they may have, whether that be retirement, pursuing a different career, paying for their children's college. But I mean, short-term rental is just so much more than real estate and finance and rental properties. It's really the hosts and the people behind it.
Great way to finish. Sabrina, it's been a real pleasure chatting. Thank you for being part of the Host Planet Playbook.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
All right, that's it for today's episode. My thanks to Sabrina for sharing her journey and for being part of the Host Planet Playbook. Remember, this series is brought to you in partnership with Hospitable, the all-in-one property management software designed to save you time and help your business thrive. Hospitable automates your guest messaging, syncs your calendars across platforms, handles team tasks, and so much more, so you can focus on delivering a top-notch guest experience or just get some of your time back. And here's the good news. Host Planet Playbook listeners get an exclusive 14-day free trial plus 25% off for the first 3 months. Head to hospitable.com/houseplanet to claim your offer and start running your rentals on autopilot. For more free education for vacation rental hosts, head to houseplanet.club, where you can sign up for our newsletter, listen to our podcasts, and download our suite of ebooks. Until next time, happy hosting.